for Chris, and I think we might be walking into Austin Collins potentially going off here. And I almost certainly think that we are. Now we will see what Meddling Mage is naming.
Noteworthy that it's a 3/3 also, so outside of Pyrite Spellbomb range.
Meddling Mage is named Engineered Explosives, and again, this is what some of the difficulty of the matchup is. Engineered Explosives is their answer to essentially everything.
Yep.
Whatever permanent that you play, Freebooter, Meddling Mage, Thalia, so on and so forth, this deck can explosives away. So you kind of want to name explosives with Meddling Mage instead of Crarkline Ironworks. But if you don't name Crarkline Ironworks, this happens. And that's the problem.
You kind of need two.
Yeah.
One's if you're a sniper or you happen to get fortunate, one Meddling Mage can be really disruptive, but typically it takes two for it to be really impactful.
Chromatic Sphere here for Austin Collins. He's working on going off. But more importantly, and this is why Sai is so good out of the sideboard, even if he doesn't kill Chris this turn, the problem is that Chris can't even really make any good attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, he'll attack with Mana Strider, obviously, and he'll attack with various other creatures, but these Thopters are all in the way. Sai's a 1/4.
A lot of keywords in the human stack, a lot of creature combat keywords. And part of the reason that it's good in Creature Mirrors is because you have a lot of flying and first strike and the size matters. One keyword that's absent from this deck is Trample.
Yeah.
And a sea of chump blockers can buy a ton of time against humans. And you can see on this battlefield, I mean, even if Collins can't win the game this turn, and it's looking likely that he's going to be able to win the game, even if he couldn't do it, Pikula would be so far away from making any profitable attacks.
Yeah, this deck is just churning out Thopters now. Collins can, of course, sacrifice these Thopters to draw cards, thanks to Sai. Sai is just such a huge metagame addition for this deck. Such a great sideboard card. They don't play a ton of copies of it, but they see so many cards between Ichor Wellspring, the Chromatic Stars and Spheres, Terrarion, and maybe even Mind Stone if it comes to that. But they'll be able to find Sai.
And what I really like about Sai, it's kind of one of those best of both worlds sideboard cards where, let's say your opponent is preventing you from doing the combo, for whatever reason, they have sideboard cards, what have you. Sai plays really well in those games of allowing you to convert all of your artifacts into live cards. You can even beat down and win the game some amount of the time in those worlds. And in the sideboard games where you are able to combo out, Sai's still plenty productive because when you have Ironworks, it turns all your artifacts into extra soul rings, and it makes it even easier to go off.
Yep.
So whether or not you can execute your primary plan, Sai fits in very well in that game. And I like sideboard cards like that for combo decks, where if my combo is still good, great, and if it's not, also great.
Collins going to play a Pyrite Spellbomb now. Another Thopter. Not sure if he is out of gas just yet. The one thing that he hasn't found that he's probably looking for is his Grab Trawler, as he's going to use Buried Ruin to get back Ichor Wellspring.
I mean, it's really hard for him to miss from this position. There's so many redraws, and if he finds, let's say, an Opal and can start converting the Thopters into extra cards too, I mean, it's possible. You could stack his deck in such a way that he can't go off this turn, but I think it's becoming really unlikely for him to miss.
And I continue to be impressed with just how, for lack of a better term, calm he is in these spots.
Yeah, it's a really precise set of operations he's going through.
You know, I don't know how much Magic Online or MTG Arena Austin Collins plays. I have to imagine the amount is non-zero, and he may play a lot locally where he's from. But to have the mechanics down with this deck at such a young age is very, very impressive. Though Chris Pikula will get another turn. I'm curious to see what he's able to do with it.
And this is another problem that Humans has with Sai in the matchup. You can say, well, okay, I'll just Alpha Strike every single turn and wear him down. The problem is that often Humans is leaning on a couple of disruptive creatures, like Meddling Mage or Kitesail Freebooter, that you can't afford to lose in combat. And once you have to leave back some of your team, you really run out of profitable attacks you can make.
It'll be Kitesail Freebooter and a trigger there on Thalia's Lieutenant. The hand here, okay, there's a Bolt. Looks like maybe a couple copies of Scrap Trawler, perhaps. Chris will take the Bolt. And also an engineered explosives.
And what you're seeing right now is emblematic of the reason that people have started moving away from humans. You are not going to be able to beat this deck with sideboarded creatures.
Nope.
You need Rest in Peace and Stony Silence. And if your mana base precludes you from being able to play those cards, you're going to have a tough time in this matchup.
Just like Chris did, Austin Collins is going to win this game and match over Chris Pikula